Hi and welcome back to the lab. Well, today here on the bench we have again a KENWOOD TS-50 again with its tuner. So the original tuner fits here to our KENWOOD TS-50. And this radio seems to have some aging problems, such as that the output power is not constant. It will reboot if the input voltage is below 13 volt and such. Battery is empty, so the memory battery for our processor, and so we have some problems really seems to be related to age. But on the other hand, it could also be something to do with here our auto tuner, which is known for making some trouble. So both is both is possible. So let's have a look and let's see if we can help this really nice radio. Alright, so here is our setup, and I have already let it run a little bit to warm up, and it should be by now on temperature, so that is no problem. So you see that is the AT-50, and that is really a nice fit. So what I have recognized when I switched it on, so really it goes back to factory setting somehow. So let's see, even if we now switch it off and on again. Okay, that was holding. Maybe that the battery can hold that for a little while, but I'm quite sure that we need to replace the battery, so that is for sure. Anyways, there have been some other reported problems, so I have a nice fault description here. And the first is that the radio will reboot when we try to transmit if the voltage is below 13 volt. So first of all, let me switch off the auto tuner, and you can do it here. And oh, was it? It is switched off. Now it is on. Okay, let's switch it off, and the AT sign here goes off, and now we see that it is in through modus. So therefore, of course, I have set our power supply to 14 volt, and let's transmit to see what the amperage is. And it is drawing 15.4 amps, setting at 100 watt output power, so that really looks normal, nothing to complain. Now let's see what our output power tells us. Alright, so first of all, we are of course interested in the output power. So let's see what we have. Yeah, the radio is going up to 101 watt output power, so that is definitely no problem. And our radio is 30 Hertz off, so that is definitely not the best for SSB operations. So we definitely have to adjust it here a little lower, so 30 Hertz. I mean, it is just in tolerance, but I think we should put that a little bit lower, closer to what it should be. And well, as we have seen, it is on 14 volt. Now let's go back. Oh no, let me switch it, let the tuner switch in. So that is what I'm doing right now. Now the tuner is in, and let's see if we have power with a tuner. And yes, we have. I mean, it is reduced a little bit. So that is a kind of normal if the tuner is in between. And of course I'm transmitting here in an SWR of 1:1, and of course we have loss if the tuning circuit is in. But I would call that more or less as okay. So maybe it could be a little bit higher. I mean, the relays, so the TX-RX relay and what have we, is of course, I believe, what is it, 30 years almost? So that is a kind of normal, but it is not really a problem. Okay, so that means it is transmitting with the tuner as well. And now I'm going to switch off the tuner once again. Now it is off, and now I reduce the input power. Let me directly go down to 12 volt. Alright, 12 volt. Let me see if we transmit, and of course the amps are going down as well, so no problem. Now let's go over to our test set. Alright, 12 volt without auto tuner. Let's see, and we have 76 point or 75. It's dropping a little bit, so that is normal. And that we have now a lower output power is normal as well, because the output power depends always on our power supply voltage. Now with 12 volt it is lower. If I now increase it, so I increase it, and you see that the output power is climbing, rising again. So now I'm back to 13.9, 14 volt, and you see output power is back to 100 watt, down to 12, or let me go even a little bit lower. Now it is 11.5. So let me check with 11.6 at several times. So let's see. Okay, so maybe that is a little bit too low. So let's check what we have here. But again, with 12 volt input power, you see that it is still working with 77 watt output power, and once again 77, no problem. Once again 77, no problem. Once again 77, no problem. Once again. So you see it is really working. Now let me bring the auto tuner in between. Now the auto tuner is in between, and let's check again with 12 volt, 71. So that looks normal. Once again, still 12 volt, 71.6 is quite normal, and again 71, 71. So it works fine. So I really do not see here a problem. So let's crack open here our auto tuner, and let's see if everything is moving. Alright, and here is our inner of our auto tuner. So you see here the plate capacitors which will be driven here by these both motors, and you see here the inductor, and here we have our switching relays for the different bands and settings, and here are also some, and then of course here is our TX-RX relay, and so that is also switching auto tuner and through modus. And of course here is our our microprocessor, and then we have here our SWR bridges for testing and getting the information from the antenna. So that is straightforward. So what I know is that as older the units are getting, as more here our isolation plastic is becoming a problem, and as you can see it here already, we have here a crack in the plastic, which holds this both shafts together from the motor and of course our plate capacitor. And if this is going more and more worse, then you know, the motor is not able to move finally here our plates, because it simply doesn't hold, and it is loose, and then these plastic adapters or connectors or whatever you want to call it are needs to get replaced, and the problem is you can't get them any longer, so Kenwood is not supplying those any longer. But for the moment in time we don't know, so let me simply change here to another frequency, and let's see what it does. Oh, of course, I have to set the auto tuner in between. Let me see. I mean, it is of course a problem because I'm still transmitting here into that is a problem. Let me go down, maybe that you see we have already movement, and both are moving. So when I'm changing of course here the band, you see that they moving to another preset, and it looks like that there is definitely no problem so far with our plate capacitor. So both are moving, and that is here definitely good, so no problem whatsoever. Okay, now I have simply set here my test dummy SWR3 to 1, so that is used to adjust SWR bridges such as bridges in here. So of course those bridges needs to get adjusted, and therefore you need a test dummy. So now I really have 3 to 1 SWR, and that is something what our auto tuner will not be able to adjust, because these auto tuners are designed to go I think we have to look into the specs, but as far as I remember, 20 to 150 ohm, so that means that it is somewhat around SWR 2.25 or so. We will double check it. Okay, so the auto tuner is now in through modus, and I've set here this meter in between, and when I now transmit here, so the radio is set to 10 watt, by the way, and you see that we have almost SWR 3 to 1, so that is now really a bad SWR. And of course, let me now set here the radio into auto tune, and now it is in auto tune, but our SWR is still very bad. Let's see. Let me go down, let's say, hang on a second. Okay, so let's down to, I don't know, let's go down to 14, and let's see. Okay, so that is still our SWR 3. I don't know if you can see it. So that is 3 to 1. Okay, and tuner is definitely on, and it is not able to handle. I mean, you see that now you can't see. Okay, let me do it once again. So when I try to tune, is it now already? Yeah. So what we definitely see here is the tuner is on, and let me tune. You see that it is moving, but it is not really able to get it done, because the SWR is too bad, and that is what we see here as well. So it is constantly trying to move until the unit is getting here into alarm, and that tells that it is really a problem with getting this bad SWR done. So therefore you really should stop, because that is definitely not good. Anyways, what we have seen so far is that also we have a little crack here, that our capacitors are moving, and the tuner is really trying its best to get the bad antenna tunes, which is of course not possible. Yeah, and that is not possible because it is, as I already said, here the antenna impedance must be around 20 to 150 ohm, which means that it only works if the SWR is better than 2.5 to 1, and we are trying to tune here 3 to 1 artificial antenna, which can't work, but for us it was very much important to see that everything is moving. So under that circumstances, I really believe that it is working. and the tuner really does not have a problem so far. But why does the owner see a problem with output maximum 50 watt? And what I have seen is with a bad antenna. Yeah, with a bad antenna you really can get the impression that the radio only puts 50 watt out. So for instance, I've set here now the radio to 3.5 megahertz, 80 meter band. Our RT is switched in, and it is here in automatic mode on 3.5 megahertz, and so everything is fine. And now when I'm really trying here to transmit, you see that we do not get full power out. It is really bad, and still 3 to 1. And even if I change here the output power, let's say to 50 watt, and now I have to switch over here, you see that there is not really getting power out to our system here. Yeah, you see, even if the system is set to and it is trying to tune, and it is set to 50 watt, and what we see is only 5 watt, and that can happen if, you know, the tuner is not able to fix the bad SWR, maybe by a faulty antenna. Okay, to summarize it once again, I mean, on our tester we see with a good antenna that the tuner is working, and we see that the power is really present, so with antenna tuner or without. So whatever we do, we have power, and we know and we have seen that our tuner works. So when I really change here the band, then it really, you know, you see the plate capacitors working. So therefore I would say our tuner is working good. So I suspect that over the years, where the old man has used this setup, that maybe his antenna or his antenna cable or whatever, or maybe you know, the power supply he's working with do have a problem, and he thought it is all related to the radio and to the tuner. But as you have seen it, we were able to operate the radio on 12 volt, on 13 volt and on 14 volt without any problems. So we have output power, no problem. So therefore I really suspect that you know, something around the setup at home is yeah, faulty, except here our radio, because that seems to work fine here at our tester. But what we have seen is that the backup battery is definitely down, and here our up and down switches. Yeah, now I've done it so often that they obviously work in both directions with no problems. So, but I've seen it when I've done the first test, that the down button was not always really working. So we had to push it several times until it does its job. So maybe the buttons are only dirty, or they are simply worn out. Anyways, I have to open the radios, anyways, because we have to replace our backup battery, and therefore then we can have a look here at our buttons. But other than that, everything really seems to be without any problems. So let's go ahead here and let's crack open the radio. Okay, and here you can see the radio is really a little bit older, so that is the dust of the century. And what is that? It is not a Kenwood. It is an icon. Here we have it. So yeah, that is interesting. So okay, let's go ahead. Okay, and here we have our backup battery, and of course we need to check it. So let's see that you get here the full information, and now let's see. Yeah, 1.14 volt, and it should be 3 volt, of course, and that is tested with high inner resistance of 10 mega ohm. So that really means that this battery is, yeah, empty. Okay, so we have to replace it, and other than that we check here the buttons, but that will be next step. Alright, so old battery is out, and here are our new batteries. So let me fit a new one in, and then we take care here on our switches. Okay, so new battery is in place, and let's check if everything is fine. 3.1 volt, so that is looking pretty well. So let's go ahead. Okay, and as you can see, we have the front panel off, and well, again we have here an old known problem. So you see this capacitor just start to leak. So it is early enough, but you clearly can see that it is already yeah, so we really can't leave it any longer in, so we need to take care on this capacitor as well. We take it out and we swap it with a brand new one. So that is exactly the same thing we had with the KENWOOD TS-50 in video 217. So if you're more interested in this, watch simply video 217 and you see what I mean. Now I don't show the whole procedure once again. I simply just take it out and replace it with a new one, and then we finally go ahead and see what we can do here with yeah, the switches. Okay, only to give you another impression. So I always really shocked when I see what capacitors can do, and that is exactly what this little bastard did to the board already. Also, I still believe it is early enough that we are doing this intervention. Alright, just to get you an idea. Okay, and after cleaning you see that we really was able to almost rescue the pets. I mean, here you see we lost some of the pet from the acid, but that will be enough to put a new capacitor on. So basically I'm quite satisfied that we have this outcome here. Okay, so we are already working here at our display PCB, and the new capacitor is in, so that is done, and now we need to take care here on the switches. The problem is the switches are not any longer available at Kenwood, and these switches are through-hole, and well, I have no donor board to really take some old out. I have SMD switches, but they don't really fit here to what we have. And of course, the both switches which are making trouble are switching the band up and down, and of course that both switches are the most used, obviously, and therefore they are most worn out. So, well, the only thing I can do, I can take out this both, and then I can swap it with some other switches here on the board which are not so often used, such as what do we have? For example, I mean, I believe that for a shortwave radio you do not really often use scan, and maybe maybe here the memory functions are also not that much used, so maybe I can swap them, and maybe that it really helps to reduce here the problem with the most used switches. Well, otherwise maybe one of you may know where we can still get especially these switches here. So I've really looked through all my sources, and it is really difficult, but well, maybe there is a source I have simply overseen. Now I start to take the switches off, and then let's go ahead. Okay, so the switches are out, and the best what I can do right now is to clean them with some special contact cleaner, and then to wash it with WL. And well, therefore that is really the best I can do, and I've set it here with 4-wire resistor testing, and well, you see when I now go and switch here our little switch, it looks quite promising. So therefore, if I now change it, swap it out with the other position where we have definitely a better switch, then you know, I believe that will work out finally. So I know it is not the best what we could do, but yeah, no parts, no life. So that is always the same here. So it's getting more and more horrible to get parts. So I'm sure that these little switches are somewhere, maybe Digi-Key or Mauser, or where else, Farnell, Element 24, I don't know, but I was not really able to find them. So they have thousands and thousands of products, and you know, you really need to go through. That takes really a long time for a switch which might cost 20 cents or I don't know. So I really believe that what we have done here is finally okay. I will now clean the second switch here as well, and then yeah, you can see it. I've taken them off exactly here, so that are the both switches which are responsible for the band switching, as I already said. Well, and just to see the difference, I've now the other switch, and you see it is not 100% as it should, so 13 ohm is definitely too much. So you see, yeah, sometimes it's working, but it is dirty. It is not that any press will be the same result, so therefore cleaning it, yeah, 15 ohm, that is definitely not good. So cleaning helps definitely a little bit. So yeah, so that's it, what I'm doing here. Alright, so everything is back in, and the switches has been cleaned intensively, so I've tested it permanently with my 4-wire resistor tester, and yeah, so they really good by now. I hope yeah, that it holds, and that it will work for a longer time. In any other case, we really need to search for similar switches. Anyways, now I put everything back together, and then let's see how it works out. Alright, as you can see, our radio is back working, and it is already receiving, so that is very nice. As you can hear, no problem whatsoever, but most important, of course, is now our up and down switch here for band, and you see now it is working really nice, so in both directions without any trouble. So I think that will last for a while, so I think that is good. The new battery inside also holds, so I've tested it before, no problem, so that is fixed as well, so everything looks quite nice. Okay, but there is one last point we need to correct. You see, I've set the radio to 29 megahertz, and it is set to FM. And now let's have a look to our meters. Okay, when I now press PTT, you see we are sending with 100 watt, so that is that meter over there. But you see as well, our counter should show 29 megahertz, and it is not. So we are, what is it, 45 hertz too low, and that needs to get corrected, because on SSB that is definitely too much. So plus or minus 30 hertz is the maximum, so therefore that needs to get corrected. And here we are on the PLL board, and down here you see the crystal, and down there we have our test point, and we should read 20 megahertz, so that is a reference frequency. So now I show you the counter, and then we can see what the delta at our crystal is. Okay, and here we see our test point, so that is our reference frequency, which should be 20 megahertz, and you see that we are 32 approximately hertz off, and again we are lower than 29, as higher the operating frequency, as higher our delta is. So therefore here it is over 30 already at the reference crystal, so we need to get that adjusted. Okay, and here is the result. So we are 0.8 hertz too low, or maybe approximately 1 hertz, so that is full in tolerance. So what we know is that you know, a normal crystal, so that is not a T6 or such, so that is always very fiddly. So you see now it is cooling down and it is falling again, so I need to heat this area once again to get here back to frequency. So that is definitely not so nice, but we will check it with the transmitter frequency afterwards. But you see now we are very close by. And as promised, now the real testing. And yeah, you see we are 1 or 2 hertz too low, but it is going a little bit up and down. So you definitely see it is more than fine. It's a little bit the modulation which comes in here, but you see that is definitely fine, and we can leave it as it is, maximum 1 up to 2 hertz difference, which is fine. And our last test, of course, is here our unit together. So you see that it is tuning, and then I can transmit. So we still have 93 watt output power, so we are losing a little bit through our tuner, but that is what we already have discussed. Most important is that it is tuning. You can see it, and when I now transmit, I get output power without any problems. So once again, so that is definitely all nice here. So I would recommend that the antenna system should be tested, maybe that there is something wrong, and I recommend to test the power supply. Maybe something is wrong with the power supply. The unit itself definitely works alone and together with the little auto tuner here. Right, that's it for today. I hope that was a bit interesting, and catch you next time. Bye.